Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Dwayne Groom's live weekly real estate sales podcast. Yes, that's right. Every single Monday, 10 a.m. Mountain, I'm going to get on here like this, and it's going to be free to anybody. Well, you should be a licensed realtor, right? And most of the areas I work are Western Canada and the Southwest USA. So when you get on to here, our objective is to, if I move out of the way, this way or that way, is to learn the strategies top producers use to grow their business and close more deals. And who doesn't want that? Isn't that right? Now you can see there's a whole bunch of things that I have, steps that I have in my training. It starts always with a great attitude. And then you got to book appointments, you got to get leads, you got to be good on your presentations, you got to know the method of presenting price, handling objections, how to run your business, and then, of course, time management. So my thinking was I'll get on and mention a few things that come to mind. It's going to be a little, kind of like not pre-planned. There'll be some stuff pre-planned. I do have a few notes, but it's more like what's going on right now. And then if you do have a question, you'll see that there's a chat button. And first of all, the first thing I'd like you to do is look at the chat button, and then if you have a question, put it in the chat. And we're going to start to get dozens and dozens of questions. And the meeting will be live Q&A, as you can see. So I'll go and I'll check the chat. Now, every once in a while, we're going to have a guest on as well. If I got my feelers out, this is a brand new thing for me. So I'm going to just started sending out some invites to get onto my podcast. So we're going to have different kinds of guests. Some might be lead generation companies, might be a top producing realtor. So I would encourage you to share this with everybody you know, since it is about making more money in less time so you can have a ton of fun in this business, and it doesn't cost anything. We should get everybody you can on this. I would share it with your broker and say, you know what, Monday morning at 10 a.m. Mountain. So if you're in BC, it would be 9 a.m. And if you're in the central Western Canada, Manitoba, it would be 11. And we're just going to go an hour. So I would start in the morning by just going over a couple things, check the questions. If there's no questions, I'll probably start teaching some of the steps to conjure up some questions. And most of the time, the guests that I'll have will be you. It'll be you folks. You'll be the stars. You'll be able to just, if you're shy, you leave your camera off and your volume is off, you're muted, and then you just type in the chat room, "Hey, Dwayne, I had a problem protecting my commissions this week. Could you talk about that for a minute?" But if you're not shy, you might turn on your camera and you still might use the chat, or maybe you'll put up your hand. You know how you can do your virtual hand? You put up your hand, and I would say, "Yeah, go ahead, Amber," let's say, right? And then you would unmute yourself. And it would be us doing the podcast for that small segment if you're not too shy, right? Because at some point, right now we have just a few people on, and next week we'll have a few more, and then a week after that, a few more. And every single week, you watch, this thing will grow. I did a small version of this a couple of years ago, and I was always around a couple of dozen people on a regular basis. And I parked it for a while, and I can explain as we go what I've been trying to do as a motivational speaker, a business consultant, a real estate trainer, mortgage consultant, meaning mortgage brokers, starting to work with insurance sales and insurance brokers. But I specifically have done real estate sales training since 2002. So yeah, that's a few decades. So you can ask me any question. So another reason why it came to me this weekend was I was thinking, you know what? The thing that when I first got into real estate, we used to have a Monday morning office meeting, 9 o'clock. This is in the late 90s, early 2000s. I became a trainer in 2002, as you know. And about 5 years ago, the world changed. 5, 6, 7 years, six, I guess. And there was less office meetings. And I noticed a lot of people, brokerages went online, or even if they were a big brokerage, I talked to a few, and the Monday morning meeting was gone. Now, some people are not on right now because there is some companies doing a Monday morning meeting, but I thought I'll do the Monday morning meeting for any of you that don't have one, because I loved it. it kicked off the week perfect, right? I could come in, I could ask some questions about what's going on. I worked on the weekends, maybe you worked Saturday and Sunday. I know one of you I was talking to, and you wrote an offer last night, and we were texting a bit. And then when you have your Monday morning meeting, you can also do. I'll leave this open for you folks as well. What you can do is it doesn't matter if you're in BC, California, Arizona, Alberta, Manitoba, Montana. You can see I'm mostly on the west side of North America. You can post in my chat, you can post your new listing that you got on the weekend. We called that property exchange before, and that's kind of gone away as well. So, if one of you have a new listing, and you're in Edmonton or you're in Salt Lake City, or you never know, you just post it. You just put the post that you have, the link or whatever, and you never know. There could be somebody on here that's in the same city as you, or there could be somebody that is working with an investor that will be open to other cities. So we'll do property exchange, Q&A, and there is some training that I can actually do. So let's pretend one of you says, Dwayne, I've been doing listing presentations for a while, but I don't have any structure. Do you have anything that would help me? I'd go, sure. And I'd bring up a PowerPoint in our podcast. And we're only going to go probably an hour, unless there's a lot of questions. I might go to about 11:15, as the link says, 10 a.m. Mountain Time to about 11:15. And what you want to do is you want to utilize this to help you, again, to make more money in less time so you can have more fun in real estate. Anything you need at all. So if you say, is there a company that would help me with lead generation? Who do you recommend? I probably would have somebody, or I'd recommend what type of company to find to help you. So I don't think there's any questions in the chat right now. Let me check. No, but now is the time for those of you that are on right now. If you said today, what's on your mind Monday morning? Are you trying to say, I need to find a listing? What do I do? Put it in the chat room, right? And I'll start talking about that. I'll even bring up some PowerPoint, that kind of thing, right? So until I see questions, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start at the top and let you know that the training that that I have, what I'm tapping into, is the training I've been teaching since 2002, updated each year. And so now you get the 2026 version, and everything that's in this manual that people get when they're in my coaching program, I'll be tapping into that. That's my resources, right? And it's just loaded with information on how to make more money. So as I'm going forward into these steps, I'll just keep checking the chat room. So it doesn't matter when it starts out in real estate. Let's say it's Monday morning. What do we have to do? We have to have a great attitude. Give yourself a checkup from the neck up every morning. And how do you do that? Well, maybe you start first thing in the morning by reading a few pages out of maybe Bob Proctor's book, You Were Born Rich. Okay, I met him, and I'm doing that right now. I'm reading a couple of pages. So that's more about mindset, belief, faith, knowing. Bob's book, I'm just seeing if there's any international. Here's what people are saying about Bob. He's done it again. And this time taking you step by step to the surprising discovery that success is not always reaching out for something that you don't have, but rather only reaching over and rearranging the pieces you already have. That's what he calls it. You Were Born Rich. Or maybe you go and you've grabbed this book. So I'm going to mention a couple books that I talk about in my coaching. Make It Happen Before Lunch by Stephen Schiffman. And so here you are Monday morning, 9 or 10 a.m., depending where you are, or 11. And it says 50 cut to the chase strategies for getting the business results you want. I love this book. Or maybe you're looking at a couple of pages out of As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Or maybe you're just going to read a couple of pages of Think and Grow Rich. So you notice I mentioned a couple of pages. So I'm not really saying that you got to sit down and have 2 or 3 books on the go and power read and spend hours a day. I would prefer, and in fact, some of these books will say don't read more than a few pages, or no more than 1 chapter. Either put it down and rest it in your mind, or reread it at another time, because it's got to sink in. And I got many, many other books. I just don't have it in front of me, but there's, oh yes, Harv Eker's Speed Wealth booklet. This is just a booklet. This one is included in my coaching, for example. But what I'm doing today, again, is to get you in the right attitude. So the first thing you want to do is check up from the neck up every single day, every single hour. As soon as something is going a little sideways in real estate, I think I was talking, well, I coach quite a few people one-on-one, and I coach a couple of offices as well. That's pretty well what I do mostly nowadays. And I do have some keynote speaking engagements to travel to in the months to come. But when I'm doing the one-on-one with people, I'll say, make sure you have a super attitude all the time because adversity will hit you. So there was one person I was talking to this weekend. They went out and showed some properties. And earlier the week, I guess, they had written an offer. It didn't come together. It was getting a little frustrating. The clients were a little low and they needed to know, how do we work with these people? Long story short, they worked with them. A couple of days later, there was an offer that they put in and it went pending, we'll call it, or got accepted. And I always say that, you know what, real estate, you got to have the attitude that it's always amazing. And as long as you're in the game, you should always be grateful and feel blessed. So attitude is the biggest thing. Let's see what's next here. We've got booking appointments. We want to create the habit. So again, if you add a question, anybody at all adds a question, what I'll do is I will bring up a PowerPoint where you can take some notes as well. So if you said, yeah, let me know how I can book some more appointments. I don't have any marketing in place. I don't have a budget in place right now. Is there anything I can do? I would go to my one of my lessons, lesson 2, which ties in with step 2, and you would see how you could be proactive, the step by step. If anybody requests that, I'll bring it up. In the meantime, I'll just keep letting you know how it works. So the booking the appointments, what are the 5 ways? Let's just double check anything in the chats there. Nope, not yet. So I'll keep watching. I'll keep monitoring that. Okay, gang? And then we can always reach out to, well, let me do that. Maybe I'll just go there and bring it up because I mentioned it. And let's see here. I got to find a way to, it says while I'm recording, I can't minimize and bring up the PowerPoint. So that's a shame. Let me try it again here. Oh, there we are. There we are. All right. So I'm going to bring up being proactive to find a way to generate leads from one of our lessons in our coaching program. How's that sound? Good. So share. And there it is. Can you see the PowerPoint? Just somebody put up their hand and then I can tell if they can. All right. So the second key to success, which is also one of the steps, is we need to book appointments. Now, if one of you said, I have marketing, I have leads coming in that I pay for, you can put in the chat room that I am actually getting some. How do I convert? That's no problem. I'll work on that with you as well. But no, it's an interesting situation because when you're in real estate, you have a choice of 2, but I would do both. 1, you can be proactive to generate leads. And 2, you can set up some marketing so that you're getting a reaction to that. So I call it proactive, reactive, the methods. And so every day when you get up, if you have some marketing in place, you're not waking up unemployed, right, gang? You actually will have some leads in your inbox or maybe a few messages on your phone. And that's the best way to do real estate, obviously. Don't feel like you're waking up and you're a secret agent and nobody knows who you are. But if you're not making the income you want or you're newer and you want to get started, then booking appointments proactively, what could you do, right? So let's see what we have here. So first of all, just remember, you want to know what a prospect is. Prospect is someone who's ready, willing, and able to sign a contract today. All right. And that's to make some now money. But remember, we still want to be farming as well. Isn't that right? So how do we generate leads? This is the proactive activities. I'm going to talk about them briefly, and then we'll go back to the main screen and we'll see what the other steps are. Fair enough, gang? So if you want to be proactive and get involved with the community, you've seen it where there's a realtor that's working in an area, and maybe they're not sending out postcards. Maybe they don't have outdoor advertising. but they want to get their name out there. If you want to go and talk to the community, volunteer, there may be a number of things you can do that you're the local realtor. So there's one idea. We'll go pretty quick on this, okay? You can get out and door knock. Somebody I was talking to recently said they're going out door knocking this afternoon. Now it cooled down pretty quick where we're at. But you know what? If it's not super, super cold, I would still go out. Some people will let you in when it's a little cool and you can have a conversation. The person that I was talking to, they just got a new listing. And the new listing, they went and got 100 postcards printed off. One side is their postcard. The other side says just listed with a picture of the property. And they've made a commitment at this time in their career that they door knock and they hand out that just listed. Now, you could also mail them, but it's a lot more affordable to door knock. If you don't have a budget with maybe printed off, you could get them printed off at business centers, or maybe you know of a marketing company. We do have a few companies we can refer. And if you said, who could I refer? Again, you just put it in the chat room and I'll respond pretty quick to that, okay? And oh, there's something in the chat room. Let me just see here. So somebody wants to know how to get more listings in this marketplace, right? So first thing is, let me just get rid of that. First thing is go to work a minimum of 5 days a week. And if you do that, it'll increase your income 80%. Now, it may sound weird, or sound funny, but I say go to work. And it's interesting because it doesn't matter what the market is like. The people that are working are always making money. The market could go way down. The market could go way up. In fact, as realtors, you shouldn't even be worried about the market. You should know about it, but you should never be worried about it, thinking that there's some sort of certain way to do things if the market's this way and a certain way to do it if the market's that way. The truth of the matter is, as soon as you're motivated to live the dream, as soon as you're motivated to reach your goal, work on your goal. So I was reading Bob's book and it said, you need to know that you're born rich. So what you want to do is you want to start thinking like, first of all, I want you all to do this. Write down how much you want to make this year, your gross income. Go ahead and do that right now. And if you put nothing, that's what you can expect. Is that funny? No? There we go. All right. So here's the thing. You just want to make sure that you know what you're making this year, and then you want to understand. So if you do read some of these books I mentioned, you want to understand that you're going to make it for sure, but you've already made it as well. You're just going through the motions, basically. So you got to have the belief. You have to be optimistic, right? So if you said, I want to make 200 and 250, well, let's say 250. It seems like a lot of companies have an award they give out for 250 around there, around 30 deals, or maybe more like 20, a bit over 20 in the West Coast, because the dollar value is a lot higher. And then when you get into the mountain time zone, the central time zone, the prices are, so you got to do a few more deals. So let's aim for 20 to 30 deals. Let's aim for $250,000. Let's know that it's not the destination, it's the journey getting there that makes you understand that you're doing it, right? So if you needed to do 30 deals, soon as you do your first one, now you need 29 more type attitude. So you just know that it's going to happen. So in today's market, you should be getting involved in the community, and you should be door knocking, ideally with a just listed postcard. If you can't use a just listed postcard for your own listing, then see if you can borrow a listing from somebody else in the office, or go ahead and go onto your MLS, print off the sales in the area for the last 3 months. Ideally 3 months, okay? Put it on, you should be able to get a form that's a one-liner. And ideally, you want to have it where it says compliments of, and it says Dwayne Groom with ABC Realty. Use your own name. All right, so you have that. And then you tri-fold it. And if you can't get your name on it, then staple your business card to it and get out and go door knocking. This is how you can generate leads. And when you door knock, those of you that have been in my coaching, I can see there's a few on that are in my coaching, but you understand that in the manual, in the training that we provide, there's a prospecting track, and you want to remember how to use it all the time. You want to get so good that you stay on track, and it works just perfect for you, right? So when you're door knocking, you knock on the door, hello, Hi, my name is Dwayne with ABC Realty. Again, use your own name. How are you folks today? You could say that if you want to. Some people don't like to, I understand. So you might just go right to, I was just came by to make sure you're not thinking of selling, are you? And almost everybody will say no, unless they really know who you are. I can see there's somebody on here right now that is well known in their geo farm area. They have quite a few outdoor advertisements like bus benches, billboards. They have postcards that go out all the time. So when they door knock, most people say, "Oh, hi, how you doing? Hi, Dwayne, how you doing? Hi, it's Dwayne." And I've seen you. Do you got a new?" And they're talking and whatever, right? But sometimes they might just say or act like they don't know you too, right? And you just let them know you came by to make sure they're not thinking of selling. And then, or do you just say, I just wanted to know, I just want to make sure you're not thinking of selling. The reason I came by is we just listed a property down the street from you. You might, well, I don't know if you can see it, but it's over there, right? And here's a postcard with the little bit of information on there, the address and the picture of the place. And if you have any questions, let me know. So would you consider selling if you got the right price? Isn't that a great question? Some of you won't do this stuff even after you've heard it. And that's not what this is all about. This is about you trying every single thing that I can advise you to do, folks, and you will start to see results and they'll get better and better. Would you consider selling if you got the right price? Now, we do get a lot of no's in this business, but we have to be optimistic. Don't let our opinion mess up our results, right? So if somebody said, well, yeah, I'd sell if I got the right price, how much could you get for my house? So you may be able to say, well, you know what? Well, what I could do, and you could close, right? You could say, I just have a few more homes to door knock, but I could come back and maybe come in and have coffee with you, see your place, talk to you a little bit of your plans. I've got some more information about the neighborhood. You might get an appointment, or you may need to set it up where you follow up with them later, or who knows, right? But just stay optimistic, not so pessimistic, all right? And let's see a couple more things that will help that question. How do I get listings in today's market? So that's one way. Now, if somebody said, how do I get listings by getting sellers to come to me? That's a different segment of the training. This is if you want to be proactive. So there's top producers right now that are getting enough leads that they don't have time to do community involvement at all. So if you're on here and you actually don't have time to door knock, or do an open house or get involved in the community, then you can put in the chat room that you want me to let you know how to convert some of your leads so you can get listing appointments. That's no problem. We'll get into that in a bit here anyways, but let me finish up here. Let's see if there's anything else in our chat room. Remember, what's going to happen in the future is we're going to start having guests on most of the time. We'll have guests on most of the time. I'm talking to a few people. I don't want to say any names yet, but all of a sudden, you know how you go onto a podcast? I'm going to do mine live and then still save them on our YouTube channel. And see, there's more people getting on as the day goes on. So just for those of you who just got on, I just want you to know I've decided as of like this weekend that I'm doing a live podcast every single Monday. Some people might say, what does it cost? Doesn't cost you nothing. Well, how do you make money, Dwayne? Well, I've got sponsors that I'm talking to, and I also have, if you go look in the chat room right now, there's a link to anybody that wants to get a free strategy session with me and talk to me about one-on-one coaching. So that's where this is all leading, and I'll mention that at the end. But for now, it doesn't cost you a penny. And you can come right out and ask me a question in the chat room, or if you're not shy, you just put up your hand and we'll just talk. You guys are going to be the star for a few weekly meetings, if you know what I mean, right? Like I said, we'll probably end up having 20 or 30 on every week, and you're going to hear questions coming from the West Coast, from mountain time zones in both countries. So another way to generate leads if you're just starting out or you just can't afford to market yourself is to set up an open house. So, there's a couple of different levels that we're talking about here. Somebody that needs to make money right now, they should be doing volunteering with the community once a week. They should be door knocking twice a week. They should be doing an open house once or twice a week, right? And there is a certain way to do those things. And yeah, if I saw for sale by owner anywhere and I'm in this business just getting going, or I need to make some money, I would approach a FSBO in a heartbeat. How do you find a FSBO? Well, you may see one in your neighborhood. And then you can approach expireds too, and there are some restrictions in a few Canadian provinces, but in the Some of the Canadian provinces and most of, if not all of the states, you can just door knock an expired. You can phone them. You can do whatever you want. In fact, I have a couple of companies that will give you a list daily of FISBOs and expireds. All right. So that's pretty good. Let's see what else we have for proactive activities. Oh, yeah. So a couple of people, I coach people at different levels. So I have one that's been in business about 10 years, and she's so swamped in the greater Vancouver area, the lower mainland. She's so swamped that doesn't have time to door knock or do open houses. She has to get somebody else to do them or worry about talking to FISBOs because all that's keeping her busy is her sphere of contacts. And she's keeping in touch with them. It's automated though. Then I have somebody else I'm coaching that's fairly new in the business, and they are doing proactive activities all the time. So wherever you are, again, you can just ask me a question in the chat room or put your hand up. And we'll be doing our podcast today as if you guys are the guest. All right. So let's see, nothing in the chat room. So let's just go into what we would be talking about in the third key to success, which is how to get your phone to ring or how to get leads in your inbox. So I have another person I coach, and I was on the phone with her earlier today, and she was just saying that, yeah, I'm getting enough leads. And there's a couple of different companies we can tell you, but in this case, hers are Google pay-per-clicks, Google pay per click. And I say that slow because some people thought it meant a paper click. I'm just kidding, but it does sound like that, right? But it's a pay for you pay each time somebody clicks, and you get a lead come into your inbox. So that's pretty popular nowadays. She's doing pretty good. She seems to be getting listing appointments off of that. There's also some companies that will help you to get set up on social media where your ad looks really good and it says things like, find out what your home's worth. Click here. Now, remember, the pessimist side of us will always go into what doesn't work. So let's talk about that just for a minute. Because remember, the first key to success for you is to have the proper attitude. So let's look at these and see what is negative about them. First of all, I remember I had a trainer. He's quite a bit older than me, and he's still around, but this is about 25 to 30 years ago. And I was listening to one of his audio tracks or videos, and he said, somebody asked me for some advice. They said, if you could just give me one thing, one set of advice about real estate, what would it be? And the guy said, just one, like not 10, not five, just one. And they said, yeah, just one. What would it be? He said, one, the best advice I could give you, if I could only give you one, is get out of real estate. That's what he said. I thought that was funny, right? But it's funny and not funny at the same time, because if you're pessimistic, you're going to hate real estate. There's just too many no's, there's too much adversity. So let's talk about community involvement. What's the negative side of it for a second? Well, let's say you have a golf shirt that says ABC Realty, your company, or you have a pin on or something and you're volunteering and somebody starts asking you, hey, oh, it looks like you're in real estate. What's the market like right now? The pessimistic person always thinks that that's not going to turn into a lead. You know, it's just a waste of time. What do they think about door knocking? They think that every door they knock on, either people won't answer or people will tell you to take a hike, you know, colorful metaphor, you know, get the blank out of here. Or they're going to be kind of rude when they talk to you, or even if they're nice, they don't want to sell. That's what a pessimist is. We're going to come back and go through all these as an optimist too. The pessimists, what do they say about open houses? Nobody's going to show up. You know, what do I do if there's a whole bunch of people? So they're all I have to let them all in, otherwise I'll lose some. What if somebody steals something? I don't want to be responsible for that. What if, and it's all negative. They have no structure and they just think it don't work. What do they think about a FISBO? They think of FISBO, oh, they eat their young. You know, expireds. Oh, if they're in a province where there's some restrictions, oh, I'm not allowed to talk to them, right? Or, you know, they had a bad experience last year. They're never going to use a realtor or a FISBO. They'll never. Why would they use a realtor? They got to pay. They don't want to pay. So they always come up the pessimist side. And then their sphere of contacts. They've worked so hard to get 100 people into their sphere of contacts. And I'm just talking about the proactive stuff, not the marketing side of it. So here you are, and you're saying like, oh, I don't want to bother them. I hate when people call me. right? I don't like when people do that to me, so I don't want to do it, right? And there's the negative side. On advertising, the pessimist side will say, nobody responds to my marketing, right? It costs too much. It's not an investment, it's a waste of money. So advertising listings. So say, oh, if I put it on marketplace, all I get is a bunch of questions. I can't convert that into any meetings. So there's this can't and there's this but. Oh, if I target market to my neighbor to listings and my neighbor to sales, if I do that, nobody's going to call. It's just a waste, to send out these postcards. If I get some outdoor advertising, how do I get people to call on my bus bench? Nobody calls on bus benches. And you really say that because you don't want to spend the money more than anything, because there are a lot of realtors with outdoor advertising, and you can see the ones that are consistent, and they wouldn't do it if it didn't work. That's kind of more of the optimistic side. But they'll also say, oh, well, what's the point of sending out a postcard? I sent out postcards before. You send out postcards for a couple months, usually you don't get nothing, and you got to kind of do it for good, or do it for a year to kind of see, oh yeah, you know what? I spent X amount of dollars. Well, anyways, we're going to get back to the optimistic side. The pessimist again will say, none of my past clients like the newsletter. They don't like, nobody likes mail anymore. So we just send emails. And then, oh yeah, and emails, nobody opens their email. So it's all negative, all negative. Oh, referrals, I got to give 25 or 30%, and then, I have a lot of work to do. My website, yeah, people get on the IDX and, all they do is they're just a bunch of lookers that try to get a hold of them. And then social media, nobody responds. And if they do, they ghost me after I give them an answer to the question. So I usually don't do what I just did with you folks. I usually don't go into a negative spin. But I just thought, you know what, if we're talking about attitude, oh, we got another question here. Let's see here. And somebody asked what a Google pay-per-click is. So we'll get into that in a second here as well. So let's look at an optimistic attitude. Let's pretend that you're doing everything. All right, folks. So you're involved in the community. You do something once a week. I don't know what it is. Check with your community. It could be helping to clean up. It could be helping to, whatever it is. I don't know. You'd have to ask them, right? Now, there's other forms of community involvement. You could have a cultural community involvement. You could have a physical community involvement. Or the other thing you could do is you could be involved in a business association in your community, or maybe Toastmasters or some of these group things. And a lot of them don't cost anything or don't cost very much. So what's the opportunity here? What's the optimistic side? Well, any chance you get to be in front of people is an opportunity. You just have to know how to talk to them. Isn't that right, gang? What's the opportunity in door knocking? Well, I had one person that went out door knocking, and they got a listing. Like literally, somebody said, "Yeah, we're thinking of selling," and that doesn't happen every house. You may have to knock on 100 homes to get one that says we're selling, and you get a listing. But I can tell you one thing for sure: if you do it all the time, the exposure does pay off. Open houses, there's a for in our training, we have a door knocking system. And with open houses, we have a survey approach that we teach. So you go in and imagine if you did it properly and you had an offer on your listing, or you ended up with a few seller leads or a few buyer leads. So be optimistic. For sale by owners, how many of them do you got to find or talk to that want to sell? They all want to sell. And they say, here's a good stat for you, gang. 7 out of 10 will list with a realtor eventually. Expireds are the same. The 7 out of 10 actually will list within a year or two again. So when you look at those odds, and then the number one way, warm call your sphere. So this is what you should do. Set up a time, set up a meeting with yourself, we'll call it. They say success is when you booked 1 hour a day, 5 days a week with yourself to follow up on leads and be proactive and have the attitude, okay, 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock after I've gone to the gym, had breakfast. If that's what you do, that's kind of how I had my day, because it's so hard to go to the gym when you're a residential realtor later in the day or in the evening and all that. So that's what I did. But I'm just saying, you get in the office 9 a.m., you start to do a little bit of paperwork. You could phone people. It's a little early. 10 o'clock, maybe you start looking at the leads you got in your inbox, return some calls, and maybe have a little list to be proactive, to fill in the gap if you only have a few leads. So on your list, it would be a couple of FSBOs. Usually you can find at least one a day. There's dialogue that we can talk about, right? And then you might call an expired if you're in an area where you can call them direct. If you're in a place where there's restrictions because of Privacy Act, and there's only a few provinces like that, most of the states I teach in, there's nothing. And I believe on the coast, there's nothing. So you could call direct if you can get their number. Some of you, to get numbers, you could get the telelisting tool, but I recently have looked at it. So I'll tell you, 20, 30 years ago, the reverse directory was most real estate boards had it complimentary to the realtors. And then up until about 10, more than 10 years ago, it was just free and everybody had a landline, right? You know what I mean? Up until about 10 years ago, almost everybody still did, maybe 15 years ago. And then up until about 2 years ago, after the do not call list entered the scene about over 10 years ago, there used to be one in every four homes had a landline that was not on the do not call list. That was like that for quite a while. And about a year ago, more than ever, people are getting rid of their landlines. So when we looked at the telelisting tool with the client last week, it's more like 1 out of 10. So it's almost not really worth getting that. You're better off to pay for Google pay-per-click leads to get people's phone numbers. But back on what you should be doing is you should call a FSBO if you find them online, or an expired, or any numbers you can get. And then on your list, it'll say call 2 or 3 people in your database just to touch base and say, hi, how you doing? And maybe you're proactive in finding more people. This is all proactive, right? Now, reactive, we're going to get to that question about Google clicks, I think somebody said. And so when you're advertising your listings, first of all, how many of you have a listing? If you have a listing, you can get business off your listing. So you want to create a listing checklist. So when you advertise your listings, I want you to try to come up with 10 ways to advertise your listing right now. All right, try to write that down right now. If I was a seller and I asked you, how do you market my home? Why should I use you? Okay, what you're trying to do is get people to react to your advertising so you can get more business, but the seller still wants to know how you're going to sell this place. And don't assume they all know exactly what you know. Some people don't even know what MLS is. It's interesting. And there's this one story. It was I can't remember what community it was. It's quite a few years ago, but it just comes to mind. There was a REMAX agent and a Century 21 agent. And they had interviewed, they did a listing appointment. And the REMAX agent was the last one. The Century 21 agent had gone in first. And the REMAX one went in second. And they said, okay, well, we're going to think about it for a while. We'll let you know in a couple of days. And he happened to leave. And I don't know why he didn't try to handle the objection. Probably did because he didn't take our training. So anyways, he called and he followed up and he says, have you made a decision? They said, yeah, we're going to go with the Century. We went with the Century 21 realtor. And the REMAX guy said, oh, can you tell me why? And the seller said, well, they're MLS. They actually have a system where they put it on and all the other realtors get notified. And so they told me about how it works and we really liked it. And he said, well, I'm MLS. And the seller said, oh, you didn't tell us. Now, that may sound totally ridiculous to you folks as realtors, but this is a true story. They actually didn't know how it worked, and they thought it was such a cool system. And one realtor did tell them. So don't assume that the sellers know exactly how you market things. By the way, most people would understand that REMAX is Century 21 and whatever companies you're with are all MLS. I get that, but don't assume it. That's all I'm saying. If you want to write down assume, it's spelled, the first 3 letters are ASS. And the next letter is U, and the last 2 letters is me. So you can figure that one out. But anyways, don't assume anything. So write down 10 things that you do to market a home. Number 1 is you probably put it on MLS, which goes on to realtor.com or realtor.ca. Depends what country you're in. All right. The next thing is you're probably going to get a company to come in and take some measurements and get some photos and a video so that you can start posting everything on the internet and on social media. So there's, let's say 2, 3, that's number 2 and 3, internet and social media. Then you're probably going to do some signage. Would you agree? So that's maybe number 4. And if anybody, you want to type it in the chat room, go ahead. I'll even bring up anything that I missed because I don't know if I'll get to 10 off the top of my head. And so, because I'm just winging it today, I'm just being me. I don't have any notes in front of me. In fact, I did write down some. I should probably get to them in a second here. So yeah, I'll get to that in a second here. So you you advertise your listing. You can property boost on some of your websites. You can let them know how that works. Always tell them what's in it for them as well, right? So you say, well, here we do this. What that means to you is, so when you list with me, it's like listing with all the realtors in the city on MLS. When we put it on the internet and, what you could use, YouTube, Instagram, X, or that's social media, excuse me. If we talk about social media separate, online, you got Craigslist, Kijiji, YouTube, your websites, your company websites, other platforms. On social media, you got Facebook. Now, your YouTube videos and photos on your channel can go to all the social media. So you're letting them know, but you're saying, you never know where we're going to get a buyer. There could be somebody just flipping through some of the quick videos. So we're on there. You could see somebody that we boost on Facebook. They may see a sponsored ad. They might click on there. We may be on Kijiji, Craigslist, where we boost. We pay a few dollars and somebody goes and searches and voila, your listing comes up. We go on Marketplace on Facebook, right? And people will go on there to search for properties and boom, there it is. And then, of course, we've got target marketing because we're going to send out a postcard to about 100 people in your neighborhood. Now, you never know. They might just be curious, but they may know of somebody who wants to live in the area and they're just waiting to see if something comes up because they don't want to sell their place. So they may help us to find a buyer. We could have outdoor advertising, and we could have a yard sign with some directional signs if it's allowed in your neighborhood. And people could be driving by and they give us a call as well. We also are proactive. We will actually door knock. This is me acting like a realtor talking to a seller. We actually will door knock and notify the neighbors. We'll make phone calls also. We'll call any realtors that work the area, email them and let them know there's a new listing just in case they miss the MLS notification. We have a newsletter goes out to our past clients every single month, and inside we insert, just like our website has featured listings, we put featured listings into our newsletter, and we could get some referrals or somebody might want to call and buy. So there you go, folks. You got about 10, right? And so what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're doing all those for every single listing. Number two was already brought up, target marketing and geofarm area is also there. Past clients referrals, website/internet. I should probably put that beside that. So that'll bring us to our Google pay-per-clicks and our realtor.com and realtor.ca leads. So a Google click there's a number of companies that you can pay. One of the companies we refer in our training is Agent Locator, for example. There's other ones, Real Estate Webmasters. You could talk to your website provider and you could say, I want to get some Google pay-per-clicks. You could also talk to Google directly. They won't really work with you unless you're spending a certain amount every single month. And what it is when people go on the internet and they're searching for a property, there's an ad that pops up. And it's your ad. And it'll just say, if somebody says they're looking for properties in Happy Hills, it'll say, click here to get listings, up-to-date live listings, or up-to-date or now listings in Happy Hills. So they click on that and they get to put in their criteria. They get to put in their price range, their style, the location. What else would it be? Maybe a couple other things like finished basement garage, but they put it in. And when the search is ready to be delivered to them, they have to fill out an input form. And they would put in their name, John Smith, and their phone number. It's mandatory. Now, before the pessimist side of you says they could put in a wrong number, right? I'll go, oh yeah. But let's just be optimistic here. So now they fill it out. You get the lead in your inbox. They get a list of properties that matches their criteria. Sounds good? So we'll talk. Before I tell you how to convert it, let me just tell you that's what a Google pay-per-click lead is. It comes to your inbox from people so you got to have the website you have has to have IDX or reciprocity, I guess you call it. I mean, layman's terms, it would be a place for them to do a search. Now, we started doing that around 2000, around the year 2000, 2001. It was getting a little more popular in 2002. And back then, we didn't give people an opportunity to do a search like that unless they had already signed buyer agency with us. That's the way we did it before. Before that, when I first got into real estate, we used to have catalogs. It was pretty thick. Our residential catalog was about an inch and a half. Commercial one was a little over a half inch, and then there was updates weekly. And we used to advertise if you'd like to find out what properties are available, give us a call, and they come in the office. We go through the catalog, and that's kind of gone out. We used to be the gatekeepers. And that's kind of gone away because everyone can get access so easy. MLS went on the internet. So it all changed about 20 somewhat, 25, 26, 27 years ago. So that may seem irrelevant, but the truth of the matter is we're giving away way too much information. So if you want to use it so that they get a list of properties, but you've got the lead, let's talk about converting it for a second here. Let's see if there's any questions on that. And I'm going to go about another 10 minutes, maybe 15, and see if there's any questions and then wrap it up. And it's all recorded and I'm putting it on my YouTube channel, and then I'll be doing it again next Monday. So, this is the first time. We just have a few people. Spread the word. I'll continue to send out the email. And I think offices could use this, right? If you were a broker, you would say to your group, everybody log on to Dwayne's Real Estate Sales Podcast every Monday. And that could be your office meeting, and people can ask questions, and I'll help everybody. And it won't cost them anything. So where was I again? Converting the lead, I think it was, right? So I would print it off to make it a little more tangible. I mean, it's up to you though, or make sure that you start adding numbers to a spreadsheet, excuse me, on Excel. And then I'd give them a call, and in the training, you're going to have a prospecting track that you want to follow. I always recommend that you print it off and put it on your wall. And it just goes like this. It just says that when you call somebody, if you know their name from the input form. So I got an input form here from a broker that's hired me to do some training before their awards celebration on March 13th in central Alberta. So I'll be driving down and I'll be teaching for about, from about 10 to 2:30 or 3. Then there'll be a break and everybody will get ready for a dinner and awards banquet, right? And so he put in his name, and this would be the same as your Google pay-per-click. They put in their name, their email address, their phone number, the company. In your case, they may not be a company because it's buyers and sellers, right? And where their criteria is. So you print it off, and just like I did with this broker, I called them, left a message, and then the next day I emailed them, and later that day I called again, and then I sent a Zoom link from my Calendly. You might want to do this, folks. And remember, you don't just reach out and touch a lead once. You may not like this, but you probably need to reach out and touch it up to 20 times. And the first week, it may be 3 phone calls spread out over the week. It might be a couple of emails touching base, and one email that I sent for this broker. So he didn't return my phone call right away. Then I sent an email and said, I left you a message and I'm looking forward to talking with you. Here's a link to my calendar to book a Zoom meeting with me. And in this case, he booked it, and we got on and we talked for a half hour, and now he's booking me. And you can use that example the same for any of your online leads, right? You can say, give me a call, and there is certain dialogue that we will teach. And again, I'll just follow the training or the questions right now instead of bouncing around all over the place, but hit me with a question anytime. So let's say this was a Google pay-per-click. I'd call and I'd say, hello, John. Yeah, it's Dwayne Groom with ABC Realty. It looks like you're thinking of buying. Is that right? And they'll probably say no. But they already sent a form that looks like they're thinking. I mean, they'll say, no, I don't know, not really. Why? And you say, well, I got your request in your input form here. I see that you're looking for a place in Happy Hills, bungalow style. Is what you're interested in. Is that right? Now, the pessimist in you, just to practice, will say, they're going to say, no, 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 and they don't want to talk to me and all that. Let's just get rid of that, park it. Let's go with optimism and say, what might they say that this could turn into a meeting so that we can get some of these, right? So yeah, we were thinking, but and just to be kind of, I don't know, middle of the road, we'll say we're not sure when we should and all that. Well, tell me a little bit more. Well, what I got here anyways, you got Happy Hills, price range about 1.3 to 1.4 million. If you're in a different location, it might be 600 to 700. It depends where you are. West Coast is more expensive. up and down the coast, San Diego to Prince George is way more expensive than Edmonton, Calgary, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, for example. So you can picture that in your mind. So you say, and then when they start opening up and talking to you, because every so often they do, then you want to close. You want to offer to meet them. So with a buyer, you would say, well, yeah, I can see what you're looking for. Well, let's do this. I don't mind. I got some time where I can meet you at my office. And we can do a couple of things. We can let you know how the buying process works, and we can talk to you about your plans as well. And we might be able to do a search, or we will be able to do a search and pull up some properties, and maybe we can go see some. And I got some time I could see you on Saturday. You know, if it's earlier in the week, like today's Monday, you can say, I got some time I could see it tomorrow. Or would Wednesday be better? If they said Wednesday, you say, great. Would 11 work, or is one better? I would always offer an alternate choice. And write this down. Never ask, always offer. So offer an alternate choice. Always give daytime hours. Most of the people still say, I can't, I got to work. But some people will say, sure, 11's good. So you get a few more daytime appointments. Wouldn't that be nice, gang? Not instead of working evenings all the time, right? You're still going to work evenings enough anyways. So you got the appointment. Now, to bona fide, you want to get the pre-approval process started. You want to send your pre-listing brochure. And then they will come. There'll be less cancellations if you use pre-list. Again, we can answer a question on anything you hear through the podcast, or you can go into the chat room. You can click to book a free strategy session with me. All right. And it's 30 minutes, no cost. The only thing I'll do is encourage you to keep coming to the podcast or consider one-on-one coaching, but I'm not going to oversell you or anything like that. Just letting you know your options, but utilize me as much as you want, gang. Okay. So on the seller side, if it was a seller lead, let's say you're talking to the people, and one of the questions you'll have that you should have on your prospecting tracker call form is, hey, do you own your own home or are you renting? Let me say that again. Do you own your own home or are you renting? And they said, well, we own our own home, but we just like to go look first, you know, and then bingo. How can I book a listing appointment here? Again, follow your prospecting track. Ask them some of those questions or confirm their search. Okay, so you want to sell your house and move to Happy Hills, is that right? Yeah, we're thinking of that. And yeah, and I see you're looking for a bungalow and you're looking for 1.2 to 1.4 or 600 to 700. That sounds good. And when were you hoping to be in the new home, you know, or the next home? Well, we were thinking we'd like to do it by at least the spring. So maybe the timing is, you know, you can tell they should be listing now. So then you just offer, never ask, right? Don't go into how doing it backwards could affect them or anything. You just say, well, let's do this. Why don't we do this? I got some time where I could come by and meet you folks. And this way I can see your home and I can go over a few things on what your home is worth, how it works with your buying process, and it's a free consultation. And I've got some time that I could come by tomorrow, or within Wednesday be better. You know, if you want to pick Thursday and Friday, that's fine. If you want to pick weekend, that's fine. Give an alternate choice. And all you can do is, you know, they're going to say yes or no. Just simple as that. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. You don't mind doing it? We're not sure what we're going to do. Yeah, that's no problem. That's up to you if you want to do it that way. If you're really busy, you're going to do it a little bit different. All right. Most of the time, you're going to have referrals coming to you based on the other types of advertising. So remember, that's just Google pay per click, Google pay per click leads. Okay. And that seems to be the way it's going. You really need to have an online presence, but I still would, if you look at reactive, I still would work a geofarm area, gang. As you're making money, I would start sending out physical postcards. And I would do just listed postcards, and I would probably get a bus bench or two. And so if you're wondering how that works, again, you just ask in the chat room or get a one-on-one strategy session. Or next week, you have a list of questions. You can just ask me. And I don't think I'll have a special guest next week. I'm still putting my feelers out there. This is going to grow. And how's our time doing? Yeah, we'll go a few more minutes. Let me just wrap up the booking appointments and go back to the main screen and comment on a few things. Then I'll see if there's any questions and I'll let you all go. Fair enough? So I think I said enough here on that. Geofarm area, past clients, you should have a newsletter going out every month. There's different companies you can use so you can get more referrals. Should have an online presence with your website, and you should be working your social media as well. Okay, let's see here. So if you look at the main screen, you can see on my ad that you got an email or you saw it on Facebook where it says, can't see my name. I don't know how to, I got to resize this going forward, but Dwayne Groom's live weekly real estate sales, that's for realtors only, basically, podcast. Join every Monday morning, 10 a.m. Mountain Time going forward. Live Q&A, either in the chat room or you put up your hand and ask me a question. And there's 8 steps, so that somehow it can't see the bottom. It's got to be moved up on the screen. But we talked about attitude and we got into booking some appointments. So next week, we'll go a little bit further into generating leads, unless, remember, when we have more people, there's going to be some people just have a straight out question. Who wants to make more money? Show of hands, right? And I'll say, okay, what do you need to know to make more money in this business? I will give you the answer. I have the answer to everything. Other than that, we'll just keep working down these steps. Okay, so let's see here. We'll do our Q&A now and see if there's any. Where's our questions here? We had a chat. So the last one was, what is a Google click? I think we answered that. If there's any other questions on that, just let me know. How to get more listings in this market. So there's 2 methods. And so here, there's a couple other things. So we're recording this. We're going to put it on YouTube. We're going to make it live. We're going to make it real for you. We're going to ask you what you want. And if I don't have a special guest, you guys will be the stars. We'll do Q&A in the chat. And at the end of each meeting, we just have an offer for you. So in the chat room, it says, let me get my glasses on here. It says, free strategy session with Dwayne Groom. You will select a date and time to get your complimentary strategy session. Now, if you're watching the recording right now, you wouldn't be able to get into the chat room. But what you can do is you can go to my website. And the website is dwaynegroomseminars.com. And in there, you can go to contact and you can request a free strategy session, or you can just fill out the input form and I'll reach out to you. Let's see what else there is here. That's our website. Our phone number is 888-443-8006. 888-443-8006. Reach out to me anytime you want. And let's see what else we got. I don't think I went over everything. So there's a poem I have here. I just want to see if I can find it quickly here. And I just want to read this, then I'm going to let everybody go here. But the poem is, I didn't have it queued up here. So I'm just, like I said, I'm just being me today. And there it is. And it's an old poem. It says this. So earlier I told you to put down how much you want to make in this and this annual year. We're in early January, right? So up until, I don't know, let's try to make your money by the end of October. But let's just say for this whole year, you put down that you want to make 200,000, 300,000, 400,000, or 500,000. All right. And now I want to see if you can give yourself a raise. And then maybe you could go read Bob's book. So this goes like this. I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay you no more, as I sat in the evening and I counted my scanty store. For life, you see, is just an employer. He'll pay you just what you ask for. And you just need to believe that you can create that with the proper training and the proper activities. But once you set the wages, you must bear the tasks. That's basically what I said. And I work for a menial hire only to learn in dismay that any wage I would ask out of life would have willingly paid. So God bless you folks. Reach out to me, and I'll see you all next week.